The emergency session alarm echoed through the crystal halls of the Zephyrian Council chambers. Ambassador Veltar rushed through the corridors, his long green limbs carrying him faster than usual. The soft blue light from the walls could not hide the fear in his large dark eyes. Inside the council room, 12 other ambassadors sat around a circular table made from living wood. Each one represented a different species from the Zephyrian collective. All of them were herbivores. All of them were scared. "The situation grows worse each day," said Council Leader Morden, her voice shaking. She was old even for a Zephyrian, and had lived through many peaceful years. "The Vaktar Imperium has taken 3 more worlds this month. Our people flee in terror." Veltar took his seat, his heart heavy. Through the large windows he could see their beautiful planet below. Green fields stretched as far as the eye could see. Gentle creatures grazed in meadows. Cities grew like gardens, with buildings shaped from living trees. It was a paradise that might soon be destroyed. "How many ships do we have left?" asked Ambassador Krelon from the insect-like Mantari species. His wings buzzed nervously. 47 cargo vessels, replied Defense Coordinator Yelma. "None built for war. We have never needed weapons before." The room fell silent. For 1,000 years, the Zephyrian collective had lived in peace. They grew food, shared knowledge, and helped each other. War was something they read about in old books, not something they lived through. "The Vaktar are different from us," Morden continued. "They eat meat. They love to fight. Their ships are built to destroy, not to create. When they take our worlds, they turn our farms into hunting grounds. Our people become their food." Veltar shuddered. He had seen the reports from the fallen worlds. The Vaktar were large, powerful beings with sharp teeth and claws. They stood twice as tall as most collective species. Their ships looked like the creatures they came from, dark, angular, and built to kill. "We cannot fight them with our ships," said Yelma. "We cannot run far enough to escape them. They are faster and stronger than us. We need help." "But who would help us?" asked Krelon. "Every species we know is either already in the collective, or they are too weak to fight the Vaktar." Ambassador Veltar had been quiet until now. He stood up slowly, holding a data pad in his hands. "I have been studying the old archives," he said. "There might be someone who can help us." All eyes turned to him. Hope flickered in the room like a small flame. "Tell us," said Morden. Veltar activated his data pad. A hologram appeared above the table. It showed a blue and green planet, beautiful and peaceful. White clouds swirled around it like cotton. "This is a planet called Earth," Veltar said. "It is the home of a species called humans. Our deep space probes found it many years ago, but we never made contact." The council members leaned forward to study the image. The planet looked perfect. Blue oceans covered most of it, with green and brown continents. It looked like a garden world, just like their own. "Look at this data," Veltar continued, switching to another display. "The planet is covered in green vegetation. Vast fields of crops, forests that stretch for thousands of miles. This is clearly a species that loves to grow things just like us." "They must be farmers," whispered Krelon. "More than that," said Veltar, his excitement growing. "Look at their cities. They have parks and gardens everywhere, green spaces between their buildings. They care for their world like we care for ours." The hologram showed images of Earth cities from the probe data. Green parks dotted the urban areas. Trees lined the streets. To the Zephyrian eyes, it looked like a paradise of fellow plant lovers. "There's more," Veltar said. "The probe detected thousands of ships around their planet. Not just a few dozen like we have, but thousands. If they are farmers like us, they must have cargo ships to move their crops, trading vessels to share their food. They must be very advanced." Morden studied the data carefully. "You think they would help us fight the Vaktar?" "Think about it," Veltar said. "They are plant growers like us. They must hate the idea of worlds being destroyed and turned into hunting grounds. If the Vaktar win here, they might go after Earth next. It would be smart for the humans to help us stop them now." The council buzzed with quiet conversation. For the first time in months, there was hope in their voices. "How would we contact them?" asked Yelma. Veltar smiled. "I have already prepared a message. We send it on the emergency frequencies, the ones used for distress calls between civilized species." "What would we say?" asked Morden. Veltar cleared his throat and read from his data pad. "Greetings, fellow children of the green worlds. We are the Zephyrian Collective, a peaceful alliance of plant-growing species. We face extinction from the carnivorous Vaktar Imperium, who destroy our farms and hunt our people. Your world shows the same love of growing things that we share. We ask for your help in preserving life against those who would devour it. We can offer you seeds from 1,000 worlds, farming knowledge gathered over centuries and eternal friendship between our peoples." The council listened in silence. When Veltar finished, they sat quietly for a long moment. "It's perfect," said Krelon. "Any species that loves plants as much as they do would understand." "We would be asking them to fight," Morden pointed out. "That seems wrong for a peaceful species." "Even the gentlest gardener must pull weeds," Veltar replied. "The Vaktar are weeds in the garden of the galaxy. They choke out all other life." Yelma nodded. "And if they are as advanced as their ship numbers suggest, they might have ways to fight that we cannot imagine. Perhaps they have learned to defend their gardens." The vote was quick and unanimous. They would send the message to Earth. Veltar worked for hours to prepare the transmission. He included all the data about the Vaktar threat. He showed images of destroyed worlds, of collective species fleeing in terror. He painted a picture of evil carnivores destroying peaceful farmers. He also included the rendezvous coordinates, a neutral system between collective space and Earth, a place where their species could meet as friends and plan their defense. As the message prepared to launch across the stars, Veltar felt hope for the first time in months. Soon they would have allies, fellow plant lovers who understood what it meant to create life instead of destroying it. He imagined the human ships arriving at the meeting point. They would probably look like floating gardens, green and beautiful. The humans themselves would likely be gentle creatures, maybe with leaf-like features or flower-colored skin. They would bring gifts of rare earth plants and share stories of their peaceful farms. The transmission launched, racing through space toward the blue and green world. Veltar smiled as he watched it go. Help was coming. The collective would survive. He had no idea what he had just done. Admiral Sarah Chen stood in the command center of Sol Defense Station, staring at the massive wall of screens that showed everything happening in Earth's solar system. Ships moved in organized patterns around the planets. Defense satellites orbited in perfect formations. Everything was exactly as it should be. Then the alarm sounded. "Admiral," called Lieutenant Torres from the communications station. "We're receiving an unknown transmission. It's coming from outside our space using emergency frequencies." Chen walked over quickly, her military boots clicking on the metal floor. "Show me." The main screen changed to show a waveform of the incoming signal. Numbers and data scrolled down the sides. Chen studied it with sharp eyes that had seen many battles. "It's encrypted but using standard galactic emergency protocols," Torres continued. "The signal is strong, which means it came from a powerful transmitter. Probably a major civilization. Can we decode it?" "Already working on it, ma'am. The encryption is basic. Whoever sent this wanted it to be easy to understand." Chen nodded. "Let me know the moment you have it." She walked back to her command chair thinking. First contact with an alien species was something Earth had been preparing for, since they developed faster than light travel. They had protocols, plans, and procedures. But most of those plans assumed Earth would make the first contact, not the other way around. "Admiral, we have the message," Torres announced. "Put it on the main screen." The decoded message appeared, translated into English by the station's computers. Chen read it carefully, her expression growing more serious with each line. "Sir," she said to the communications officer, "send a copy of this to Earth Command immediately. Priority Alpha." "Yes, ma'am," Chen read the message again. "Peaceful Alliance. Plant-growing species. Carnivorous Imperium. They were asking for military help against something called the Vaktar. Torres, start a deep scan on our star charts. Look for any reference to Vaktar or Zephyrian. Check all our probe data, intercepts, everything." "On it, Admiral." Chen walked to her office and activated the secure communication system. Within minutes, she was connected to General Morrison at Earth Defense Command. "General, we have a situation," she began, and explained the alien message. Morrison listened without interruption. When Chen finished, he was quiet for a moment. "What's your assessment, Admiral?" "Sir, they think we're like them. Peaceful farmers. They have no idea what humans actually are. And this Vaktar Imperium, unknown. But if half of what these aliens say is true, we're looking at an expansionist military power. The kind that eventually becomes our problem." Morrison nodded on the screen. "Agreed. If they're conquering everything in their path, they'll reach human space eventually. Better to deal with them now than later." Sir, requesting permission to mobilize Battle Group 7. Granted. Admiral, you understand this is likely first contact with multiple alien species. Be careful. Understood, sir. The connection ended. Chen returned to the command center, where Torres was waiting with new information. Admiral, I found references to the Vaktar in our long-range probe data. They're real, and they're exactly what the message describes. Military expansion, conquered worlds, the whole thing. And the Zephyrians, also real. Peaceful species, mostly agricultural. Their technology is advanced but designed for civilian use. No weapons that we can detect. Chen studied the data. The picture was becoming clear. A peaceful alliance was being destroyed by a militaristic empire. And they thought Earth would help because they saw humans as fellow peaceful farmers. They had no idea they had just called the wolves. Torres, send a message to Battle Group 7. Full mobilization. We leave for the rendezvous point in 6 hours. Yes, ma'am. What class of response should I signal? Chen thought for a moment. Threat elimination protocol. Tell them to bring everything. 6 hours later, Admiral Chen stood on the bridge of the TDF Indomitable, Earth's newest and most powerful dreadnought. Around her ship, the rest of Battle Group 7 prepared for the jump to hyperspace. The Megalodon was a heavy cruiser designed to hunt down enemy capital ships. The Tyrannosaurus was a battle carrier filled with fighter squadrons. The Great White was a destroyer built for speed and killing. The Apex Hunter was a stealth ship that could appear anywhere without warning. Each ship was painted in the dark colors that human military used, blacks, grays, and deep greens that helped them hide in space. Each ship carried weapons designed by a species that had spent thousands of years learning how to kill efficiently. Admiral, all ships report ready for hyperspace jump, announced Commander Park, her second in command. Very good. Signal the fleet. We jump in 30 seconds. Chen looked at the tactical display showing her battle group. 12 ships total, each one carrying enough firepower to destroy a small planet. The aliens thought they were getting agricultural ships and peaceful farmers. Instead, they were getting Earth's finest predators. Admiral, called the communications officer, we have the response message ready to send to the Zephyrians. Read it back to me. Zephyrian Collective. This is Admiral Sarah Chen of the Terran Defense Fleet. We have received your distress call and are mobilizing to assist. Expect our arrival at the rendezvous coordinates in 72 hours. We will eliminate the Vaktar threat to your people. Chen out. Send it. The message raced across space toward the Zephyrian Collective. Chen imagined their reaction when they received it. They probably expected a reply about farming treaties and peaceful cooperation. Instead, they were getting a message about eliminating threats. All ships ready, Admiral. Jump. The stars stretched into lines of light as Battle Group 7 entered hyperspace. Behind them, Earth continued its orbit around the sun, peaceful and blue. Ahead of them waited first contact with aliens who had no idea what they had just asked for. In her private cabin later, Chen reviewed the files on the Vaktar. They were large, powerful, and aggressive. They fought like persistence hunters, wearing down their enemies over long campaigns. Their ships were built for intimidation as much as combat. They were about to learn what it meant to be hunted by pack hunters from a death world. Chen closed the files and prepared for sleep. In 60 hours, they would reach the rendezvous point. The Zephyrians would get their first look at humanity, and humanity would get its first look at the galaxy beyond Earth. It was going to be an interesting meeting. The fleet moved through hyperspace like sharks through dark water, carrying Earth's answer to the alien plea for help. Not the gentle farmers the Zephyrians expected, but something much more dangerous. Protectors who protected by removing threats completely. The hunt was about to begin. Ambassador Veltar floated nervously around the bridge of the peaceful harvest, checking every system for the 10th time that hour. The converted cargo ship had never been meant for diplomatic missions, but it was the best they could do on short notice. Any sign of them yet? He asked Navigation Officer Kylan. Nothing on sensors, Ambassador, but they should arrive soon if their message was accurate. Veltar looked out at the empty space around them. They had chosen this system carefully, far enough from both Collective and Vaktar space to be safe, with a small yellow star that reminded him of home. It seemed like the perfect place to meet their new allies. Sir, called Communications Officer Mirda, I'm detecting movement at the edge of the system. Something big is coming out of hyperspace. Veltar's heart jumped with excitement. Is it them? The humans? Scanning now. Murda's voice trailed off. Her face went pale. Sir, you need to see this. The main screen activated, showing the sensor readings. Veltar stared at the data, not understanding what he was seeing at first. Then the reality hit him like a cold wave. That can't be right, he whispered. 12 ships had just appeared at the edge of the system. But these were not the garden ships he had imagined. These were not peaceful cargo vessels carrying seeds and farming equipment. These were warships. Each vessel was dark and angular, built like a weapon. Their hulls were painted in colors that seemed to absorb light. Strange markings covered their sides, symbols that looked like teeth and claws. Even from this distance, Veltar could see the gun ports and missile tubes that lined their sides. Ambassador, Murda said, her voice shaking. They're sending a communication. Put it through. The screen changed to show a human face. Veltar gasped. This was not the gentle, plant-like creature he had expected. The human had short dark hair and cold eyes that seemed to look right through him. She wore a military uniform covered in rank symbols and medals. When she spoke, her voice was hard and controlled. This is Admiral Sarah Chen of the Terran Defense Fleet. We received your distress call and have come to eliminate the Vaktar threat. Prepare to receive our diplomatic shuttle. The transmission ended. Veltar stared at the blank screen in shock. Admiral, he whispered. Defense Fleet? Eliminate? Sir, Kylan called out, they're launching a shuttle. It's coming toward us. Veltar watched the small craft approach. Even the shuttle looked military, fast and deadly, painted in the same dark colors as the warships. This was all wrong. This was nothing like what he had planned for. Sir, what do we do? Asked Merda. Veltar tried to think. His people needed help desperately. The Vaktar were destroying everything they loved. But these humans, these were not the peaceful farmers he had contacted. These were warriors. We meet with them, he said finally. We have no choice. The shuttle docked with their ship 20 minutes later. Veltar waited in the main cargo bay with 2 other diplomats trying to look calm. The airlock cycled open and the humans stepped through. Veltar had to fight not to step backward. The humans were smaller than Vaktar, but something about them was far more frightening. They moved like hunters, their eyes constantly watching everything around them. They wore military uniforms and carried weapons that looked designed for killing. The leader was the woman from the transmission, Admiral Chen. She walked forward with confident steps, her hand resting near her weapon. Ambassador Veltar, I assume, she said. Yes, Admiral. Welcome to... thank you for coming. Veltar's words stumbled over each other. Chen looked around the cargo bay, taking in every detail. Your message said you needed military assistance against the Vaktar Imperium. Yes, but... Veltar stopped. How could he explain that he had expected something completely different? You seem surprised by our appearance, Chen observed. Her eyes were sharp, missing nothing. We thought you were farmers, Veltar admitted quietly. One of the other humans, a man with scars on his face, made a sound that might have been laughter. Chen silenced him with a look. Farmers, she repeated. Why would you think that? Your planet. The probe data showed green everywhere, crops and gardens. We thought you were like us, peaceful growers of plants. Chen was quiet for a moment. Then she nodded slowly. I see the confusion. Yes, we grow things on Earth, but we also do other things. You're military, Veltar said, stating the obvious. We're human, Chen replied. Show me your data on the Vaktar. Veltar led them to the ship's briefing room, his mind racing. Everything had gone wrong. They had asked for fellow farmers and received warriors instead. But maybe this was better. The Vaktar were also warriors. Perhaps it took warriors to fight warriors. He activated the holographic display showing the Vaktar ships and territories. Chen and her officers studied the data with professional interest. Large ships, Chen commented, built for intimidation.
How do they fight?
They hunt, Veltar explained. They find a world and surround it. Then they wait, cutting off supplies and communications. They let fear do most of the work for them. When the defenders are weak and scared, they attack. Persistence hunting, said the scarred officer. Like wolves wearing down prey, Chen nodded. What's their fleet strength? Over 200 ships, Veltar answered. Each one bigger than anything we have. Numbers and size don't matter if they don't know how to use them properly, Chen said. She turned to her officers. What do you think? They fight like amateurs, the scarred man replied. All intimidation, no real tactics. They've never faced a real predator. Veltar felt a chill at those words. Real predator. That's what these humans were. They weren't farmers who had learned to fight. They were fighters who happened to also farm. Admiral, he said carefully, our species are very different, aren't we? Chen looked at him directly. Yes, Ambassador. We are, but you'll still help us? The Vaktar are a threat, Chen replied. If they're allowed to keep expanding, they'll eventually reach human space. We prefer to deal with threats before they become problems. Veltar felt a mixture of relief and terror. Relief that these powerful beings would help them. Terror at what that help might look like. How do you plan to eliminate them? He asked. Chen smiled, and Veltar wished she hadn't. It was not a friendly smile. It was the smile of something that enjoyed hunting. Leave that to us, Ambassador. Just make sure your people stay out of the way once we begin. Later, after the humans had returned to their shuttle, Veltar sat alone in his quarters. He needed to send a message back to the collective, but he didn't know what to say. Finally, he activated the communication system. Council Leader Morden, this is Ambassador Veltar. The humans have arrived. They are not what we expected. They are not farmers. They are warriors, predators. They have ships built for war and minds trained for killing. He paused, trying to find the right words. We asked for gardeners to help us tend our worlds. Instead, we have called exterminators. They promised to eliminate the Vaktar threat, and I believe they will. But I fear we may have made a terrible mistake. These humans, they are more dangerous than the Vaktar ever were. He ended the transmission and looked out at the human fleet. The dark ships hung in space like sleeping monsters waiting to be unleashed. The Zephyrian collective had wanted allies. Instead, they had found apex predators. And now those predators were about to go hunting. Admiral Chen stood in the war room aboard the Indomitable, studying the holographic display that showed Vaktar fleet positions. The data provided by the Zephyrians was detailed and current, exactly what she needed to plan the hunt. 12 major battle groups, reported Commander Park, pointing to red markers scattered across the star map. Each one has 15 to 20 ships. They're spread across a front of nearly 50 star systems. Classic persistence hunter formation, observed Colonel Martinez, the fleet's marine commander. They surround their prey and squeeze slowly. No rush, no risk. Chen nodded, her eyes tracking the enemy positions. The Vaktar had been using this strategy for years, wearing down their enemies through fear and attrition. It worked well against species like the Zephyrians, who had no military experience. It would not work against humans. What's their response time between groups? Chen asked. According to Zephyrian intelligence, about 6 hours for the closest units, Park replied. 12 hours for full reinforcement. More than enough time, Chen said. She turned to address the full command staff. Gentlemen, ladies, we're going to teach the Vaktar about pack hunting. The hologram zoomed in on a system designated Kepler 442. 3 Vaktar ships orbited a mining colony, blockading the planet below. This will be our first target, Chen announced. Small group isolated from support. Perfect for demonstrating human tactics. What about the civilians on the planet? Asked Captain Torres from the Great White. Zephyrian mining families, Chen replied. About 50,000. The Vaktar have been starving them for 3 months, waiting for surrender. Not anymore, Martinez growled. Chen outlined the battle plan. It was simple, efficient, and brutal. Everything human military doctrine represented. The Vaktar expected their enemies to either flee or approach directly for a long siege. They would get neither. 6 hours later, the human fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Kepler 442 system. The Vaktar ships immediately detected them and moved into defensive formation around the planet. Sir, reported Lieutenant Hayes from the sensor station, the Vaktar are broadcasting on all frequencies. Standard intimidation protocol, let me hear it, Chen ordered. A deep, growling voice filled the bridge translated by the ship's computers. Unknown vessels. You have entered territory claimed by the Vaktar Imperium. We are Admiral Kresh of the 73rd Hunting Pack. Retreat now or be destroyed. We give you this one warning. Chen activated the communication system. Admiral Kresh, this is Admiral Chen of the Terran Defense Fleet. We're here to remove you from this system. You have 30 seconds to begin evacuation before we open fire. There was a pause. Then Kresh's voice returned, filled with what sounded like amusement. Terran, we have never heard of your species. But you are brave, I will grant you that, very well. Let us see how you die. Chen turned to her weapons officer. Begin the demonstration. What happened next would be studied in military academies across the galaxy for centuries to come. The human ships did not charge forward like the Vaktar expected. Instead, they split into 3 groups and approached from different angles, using the planet's gravity well to mask their movements. The apex hunter simply vanished from sensors entirely. Admiral Kresh watched from his flagship as the strange new ships moved in patterns he didn't understand. "What are they doing?" he demanded of his tactical officer. "Unknown, Admiral. Their formation makes no sense. They're exposing themselves to our fire." Kresh studied the tactical display. The human ships were smaller than his vessels, but moved with a coordination he had never seen before. "No matter. Begin the attack. Show them the power of the Imperium." The Vaktar opened fire first, their massive energy weapons lighting up space. But the human ships weren't where they expected them to be. The pack tactics that had served humans for millions of years translated perfectly to space combat. The Megalodon appeared suddenly behind the Vaktar formation. Having used the planet's magnetic field to hide its approach, its heavy guns spoke once and the rearmost Vaktar ship simply ceased to exist. "Impossible," Kresh roared. "How did they get behind us?" Before his crew could answer, the Great White struck from another angle. The destroyer moved like its namesake, fast, deadly, and utterly without mercy. Its missiles found every weak point in the Vaktar shields, turning proud warships into burning wreckage. The 3rd Vaktar ship tried to run. It never had a chance. The apex hunter materialized directly in its path, so close that the Vaktar crew could see human faces through the viewports. The stealth ship's weapons fired at point-blank range. The entire engagement lasted 14 minutes. Admiral Kresh found himself alone on a dying ship, his crew dead or dying around him. Emergency power flickered in the darkness. Through the static of damaged communications, he could hear the human admiral speaking to the planet below. "Kepler 442 colony. This is Admiral Chen. The blockade has been removed. Relief supplies are on their way." Kresh activated his personal communicator, sending a final message to the Imperium High Command. His voice was weak but filled with terror. "High Command, this is Admiral Kresh. The 73rd pack has been destroyed. The humans, they don't fight like any species we've encountered. They hunt in coordinated groups. They strike from multiple directions at once. They show no fear, no hesitation." He coughed, tasting blood. "I don't think they're prey species at all. I think they're predators. Apex predators. Abort all operations near their space. Retreat to the core worlds. The humans are hunting us now." The transmission ended as Kresh's ship finally broke apart. On the Indomitable, Chen reviewed the battle data with her staff. Total engagement time, 14 minutes, 12 seconds. Enemy casualties, 100%. Our casualties, 0. "The Vaktar fight like they've never faced real opposition," observed Colonel Martinez. "All their tactics assume the enemy will be afraid. They've been bullying farmers for so long they forgot what real predators look like," added Commander Park. Chen nodded. "Signal the fleet. We move to the next target immediately. I want to hit 3 more groups before word spreads." "Admiral," called the communications officer, "we're receiving transmissions from all over this sector. The Vaktar are broadcasting emergency signals. Let me hear them." The bridge filled with panicked voices speaking in the Vaktar language. Even through the translation software, the fear was obvious. "All ships, unknown enemy force has appeared in Kepler 442. Admiral Kresh's pack destroyed in minutes. Retreat from forward positions immediately." "High Command, this is the 41st pack. We're detecting massive energy signatures moving through the Zephyrian sector. Request immediate reinforcement. Any pack in the outer rim fall back to defended positions." "The humans hunt like nothing we've seen before," Chen smiled coldly. Fear was a weapon, and humans had learned long ago how to use it effectively. The Vaktar had built their empire on intimidation. Now they would learn what it felt like to be the ones afraid. "Ma'am," reported the sensor officer, "Vaktar ships are moving. Looks like they're pulling back from their forward positions." "Good. They're starting to understand." Chen turned to address her command staff. "Ladies and gentlemen, we've just fired the opening shot of this war. The Vaktar have been apex predators in this part of the galaxy for decades. It's time they learned their place in the food chain." The human fleet jumped to hyperspace, leaving behind the wreckage of ships and the shattered remains of Vaktar confidence. On the planet below, Zephyrian miners looked up at the stars and wondered what manner of beings had just saved them. They were about to find out that sometimes the most terrifying thing in the universe could also be the most protective. The hunt had begun. 6 months after the first battle at Kepler 442, Admiral Chen stood on the observation deck of the orbital station above New Zephyr. Below her, the planet's capital city sparkled in the sunlight, its living buildings once again growing freely. Children played in parks that had been empty during the Vaktar occupation. "Admiral," came a soft voice behind her. She turned to see Ambassador Veltar approaching, his movements more confident than they had been during their first meeting. "Ambassador," Chen replied with a slight nod. "The reconstruction is proceeding well." Veltar joined her at the window, looking down at his people's recovered world. "Better than we dared hope. The Vaktar destroyed so much, but life finds a way to grow again." They stood in comfortable silence for a moment. The relationship between humans and the Zephyrian collective had evolved significantly since that first terrifying meeting. Fear had given way to respect, though Chen knew it would never become true friendship. The species were simply too different. "The Council has finished reviewing the final battle reports," Veltar said. 47 Vaktar fleets destroyed. Over 800 ships. Their military power completely broken. Chen nodded. The campaign had been systematic and efficient. Each battle had followed the same pattern. Human ships appearing suddenly, striking with coordinated precision, leaving no survivors to report their tactics. The Vaktar had tried changing their strategies, calling in reinforcements, even attempting to negotiate. Nothing had worked. "What happened to their homeworld?" Veltar asked. "Quarantined," Chen replied. "They're allowed to keep their core systems, but any ship that leaves their territory will be destroyed. They're no longer a threat to anyone, and the survivors." Chen's expression remained neutral. "There are always survivors, Ambassador. But they remember what happened when they tried to hunt beyond their capabilities." A new voice interrupted them. "Admiral Chen, the Mantari delegation has arrived." Chen turned to see Commander Park approaching with a small group of insect-like aliens. These were representatives from another species that had contacted Earth after hearing about the Vaktar defeat. "Thank you, Commander." Chen faced the Mantari delegation. "Welcome to New Zephyr." The lead Mantari, whose name was unpronounceable to human lips, spoke through a translation device. "Admiral Chen, we bring greetings from the Mantari colonies. We wish to discuss mutual defense arrangements." Chen almost smiled. In the 6 months since the Vaktar defeat, humanity had received diplomatic contact from 17 different species. None of them wanted to be friends exactly, but all of them wanted to make sure they stayed on humanity's good side. "We can discuss that later," Chen said diplomatically. "For now, enjoy the reception." As the Mantari delegation moved away, Veltar looked thoughtful. "They're all afraid of you, aren't they? Not just the Mantari, but all the species that have made contact." "Yes," Chen admitted. "Fear is a useful tool for maintaining peace." "Is that how you see it? Maintaining peace?" Chen considered the question carefully. "Ambassador, in the 6 months since we eliminated the Vaktar threat, how many wars have broken out in this sector?" "None," Veltar replied immediately. "How many species have been invaded or conquered?" "None." "How many distress calls have we received about military threats?" Veltar was quiet for a moment. "None," he said finally. "Then yes, we're maintaining peace. Not the way your people would do it, but effectively." They were interrupted by the arrival of a young Zephyrian, barely more than a child. She approached Veltar with the fearless curiosity of youth. "Uncle Veltar," she said in her musical voice. "Are those the human ships?" Through the window they could see 3 human vessels in orbit. The Indomitable, the Great White, and a new addition to the fleet, the Peacekeeper. The ships looked exactly as threatening as they had 6 months ago, but their presence now brought comfort instead of terror. "Yes, little Silara," Veltar replied gently. "Those are Admiral Chen's ships." The child stared at the vessels with wide eyes. "Why do they look so scary if they protect us?" Veltar glanced at Chen, then knelt down to the child's level. "Because, little one, sometimes the thing that protects you must be scarier than the thing that threatens you." "But why don't they make their ships look pretty like ours?" Chen surprised everyone by answering directly, "Because pretty ships don't stop bad people from hurting good people. Scary ships do." The child considered this with the serious thoughtfulness that only children could manage. "So you look scary to protect us?" "In a way, yes," Silara smiled brightly. Thank you for protecting us, Admiral Chen. After the child had run off to rejoin her family, Veltar stood slowly. She doesn't understand what you really are, does she? She understands what matters, Chen replied. That we keep her safe. And the adults? Do we understand? Chen turned to face him fully. You understand that we're predators, Ambassador. You understand that we solve problems by removing them completely. You understand that we're not the allies you wanted, but we are the allies you needed. Veltar nodded slowly. Yes, I think we do understand that now. Are you comfortable with that understanding? Comfortable? Veltar made a sound that might have been laughter. Admiral, I don't think any of us will ever be truly comfortable around humans, but we're grateful. Grateful and protective. Protective? News of humanity's capabilities has spread throughout the galaxy. There are species out there that view Earth as a threat to be eliminated. We've made it clear that any attack on human space will be considered an attack on the collective as well. Chen raised an eyebrow. You're protecting us. We're protecting our protectors, Veltar clarified. It's a practical decision as much as a moral one. A chime sounded, indicating the start of the formal reception. Chen and Veltar walked together toward the main hall, where representatives from a dozen species waited to meet with Earth's military commander. Admiral, Veltar said quietly as they walked. May I ask you something personal? Go ahead. Do you enjoy it? The fighting, the hunting? Chen was quiet for a long moment. I enjoy protecting people who can't protect themselves. I enjoy removing threats before they can cause harm. Whether that constitutes enjoyment of fighting, I'm not sure it matters. But you're good at it. We're very good at it, Chen agreed. Millions of years of evolution made us excellent predators. We simply applied those skills to a larger scale. They entered the reception hall, where dozens of aliens mingled nervously under the watchful presence of human security personnel. Chen noticed how the various species stayed in small groups, how they kept glancing at the humans, how they spoke in quiet voices. They're all wondering the same thing, Veltar observed. Which is, whether humanity will be content to remain protectors, or whether you'll eventually decide to become conquerors. Chen considered this. It was a fair question, and one that had been debated extensively in Earth's government. What do you think, Ambassador? Veltar was quiet for a moment, watching a human marine standing at attention near the entrance. The soldier was professional, alert, and completely motionless, a perfect example of controlled lethality. I think, Veltar said finally, that humans are the galaxy's apex predators. And apex predators don't need to conquer territory. They just need to make sure nothing challenges their position. Chen nodded approvingly. That's very perceptive, Ambassador. And as long as no one threatens what humans consider theirs, everyone stays safe, Chen finished. They joined the reception, where alien diplomats approached them with mixtures of respect, fear, and desperate hope. Each species had their own reasons for wanting Earth's protection, their own threats they hoped humanity might eliminate. Chen listened to each request, made careful notes, and promised nothing. Earth would decide which threats warranted attention, which species deserved protection, and how to maintain the balance that kept the galaxy peaceful. As the evening progressed, she found herself thinking about the child's question. Why did human ships look scary? Because they needed to. Because fear was often more effective than force. Because sometimes the most merciful thing a predator could do was make sure everyone knew what it was capable of. Outside the station, the human fleet maintained its silent vigil over New Zephyr. Dark ships against the stars, carrying weapons that could crack planets and crews trained from birth to hunt and kill. They were the galaxy's monsters, and the galaxy was safer for their presence. The age of the Vaktar was over. The age of humanity had begun, and in the spaces between the stars, life grew and flourished under the protection of Earth's apex predators.